I apologized on behalf of my daughter, who is a medical student and seems to be very busy with her studies. At the pre-wedding meeting between both families, there was an empty seat for the groom's family. My mother-in-law and father-in-law noticed and immediately apologized, looking sorry. I told her to come, but she didn't listen. My husband Daniel complained about his sister, then bowed his head to my family. My family and I smiled, reassuring them it was okay. Feeling relieved by our response, my mother-in-law said, "We'd be happy if you could get along with our daughter." I nodded and agreed. At that time, I didn't think too much about it because my in-laws and husband made a good impression, so I assumed my sister-in-law would be the same. My name is Sarah, and I'm 33 years old. I just got married 2 months ago, and we're planning to have our wedding ceremony next year. Around the same time as the family meeting, my mother got sick and was hospitalized, so I wanted to wait for her to recover before having the wedding. My mother always dreamed of seeing me as a bride, so we decided to wait. Meanwhile, my husband and I are enjoying our married life with me being a full-time housewife. Before I got married, I was a doctor at a hospital. However, my busy schedule affected my mental and physical health, and it began to affect my work and daily life. I had patients to take care of, so I couldn't quit right away, but with the support of those around me, I finally resigned. Maybe working in a big hospital wasn't right for me. I felt ashamed and thought I was a bad doctor. That's when I met my husband, and after dating, we got married. He was surprised to learn I used to be a doctor, but he didn't see me as just a doctor. He saw me as a person. He promised, "I'll work hard to keep you smiling." I focus on cooking and housework to make him happy. His presence means a lot to me, and thanks to him, my health is getting better. I'm thinking about finding a job using my medical license soon. However, there is one concern in our happy life: my sister-in-law, who I haven't met yet. My in-laws say she's very busy with her medical studies, and although we were supposed to meet at the family gathering, she didn't attend because of her studies. Apparently, my sister-in-law passed her exams on the first try, so she seems very talented. A few months after the family meeting, my husband and I got married, but we still hadn't had the chance to meet her. I was hoping we'd meet someday. One day, my husband and I were out shopping. We were having fun looking at furniture and matching tableware together. Just as we were about to take a break, we heard a woman's voice saying, "Hey, isn't that Daniel?" My husband turned around and I looked where he was looking. There stood a flashy young woman in a low-cut dress, high heels, and wearing a strong perfume. "Lisa, what are you doing here?" my husband asked. As this woman named Lisa stared at me, I started to feel a bit uncomfortable. Then my husband introduced us. "Sarah, this is your first time meeting her, right? This is my sister, Lisa." "Oh, so this is her. Nice to meet you. I'm Sarah," I said, bowing politely. So this was my sister-in-law. She wasn't what I had imagined, but I tried to be respectful. Just as I was thinking about how we shouldn't judge people by their looks, my sister-in-law laughed in a mocking way and said, "Oh, so you're married already. So this is my sister-in-law, huh? My brother is handsome and makes good money, but he married such a plain, older woman. What a mystery." I was shocked by how rude she was, especially since this was our first time meeting. It's true that my husband is 4 years younger than me, good-looking, and makes more than most people because he works for a big pharmaceutical company. I could understand why someone who didn't know us might think we're not a good match, but I couldn't believe she had the nerve to say that to my face. I started to wonder if we were going to have a hard time getting along. My husband stepped forward to defend me and scolded his sister. "Hey, don't be so rude and greet her properly. You didn't even show up to the family introduction because of your own convenience." She just laughed carelessly, not seeming to care. "I had a group date, you know." I was shocked. I thought she was busy with school, not skipping the meeting for a date. To prevent things from getting heated, I decided to step in. If I didn't, my husband might get even angrier, and they could end up fighting. "Come on, we got to meet today, so it's all good, Lisa. Let's get along from now on, okay?" I said, trying to calm things down. She glared at me and asked, "By the way, what do you do for a living?" "I'm going to be a doctor, so don't get too familiar with me, okay?" I was taken aback by her arrogance. Did I upset her? I've met people with a lot of pride before, but she was exceptionally blunt. My husband was about to yell, but I tried to calm him down and answered, "I'm currently a full-time housewife, but I used to." Before I could finish, she interrupted me. "A full-time housewife is just someone without a job. I can't believe a loser like you is my sister-in-law. Are you just living off my brother's money?" I was shocked. I wanted her to apologize to all the full-time housewives out there. In her mind, being a housewife was the same as being jobless, but that was too harsh. Maybe trying to keep the peace wasn't working. "Lisa, stop it. Sarah isn't the kind of person you think she is," my husband said angrily. It's okay, Daniel. I calmed him down, but in that short time, I felt like I understood what kind of person my sister-in-law was. Sure, she was smart and passed all her exams, but her personality was a problem. Being a doctor is a great job. It's a tough path, but I hope you keep working hard, I said, smiling warmly at her. Excuse me. A jobless person like you doesn't need to give me advice. Oh, and by the way, since I'm still a student, I'm exempt from giving a wedding gift to my brother. Her attitude throughout the conversation was so condescending that it seemed like my husband had lost the energy to stay angry. He just waved her off, saying, "Just go away," as if shooing her like an animal. My sister-in-law complained as she left, saying, "I went out of my way to talk to you, and you're so ungrateful." "Whatever, I'm busy too. See you." Once she was out of sight, my husband bowed his head deeply to me. "I'm so sorry about my sister. She was really rude. She used to be much nicer, I promise." I shook my head and said, "It's fine. Honestly, my impression of her isn't great, but it's better than causing a fight between you two because of me." We've exchanged greetings, and from now on, I'll just keep my distance. Thank you for defending me so many times. I smiled and added, "Let's have some tea to lighten the mood. I could use some delicious coffee." My husband nodded in relief. A few days later, I visited a large hospital nearby, carrying flowers and a bag with some clothes. I gently opened the door to a private room and said, "Mom, it's Sarah. How are you feeling?" My mother, lying in bed, smiled happily. I regularly visited her in the hospital, helping her with clothes and her daily care. Today, she seemed to be in pretty good shape. My brother Kevin, who had just taken off his stethoscope, answered for my mom. Kevin works as a doctor at the same hospital and keeps an eye on our mom's condition. When I saw his familiar face, I couldn't help but smile. "Hey Kevin, it's been a while," I said. He smiled back and replied, "Yeah," as he continued writing down our mom's progress. I put down my bag and sat on a chair next to her bed. "Dad was here earlier, but he had to leave for a conference. Too bad we missed him. It would have been nice to all be together," I said. My mom chuckled. "This hospital is run by my dad. I used to work here as a doctor too, just like my dad and brother. It feels a little strange to call it both my childhood home and my old workplace." After chatting for a while, my mom started feeling sleepy. "I think the medicine's kicking in," she said. I gently covered her with a blanket as she drifted off. Kevin and I share a smile, thinking maybe she was comforted by seeing us. We quietly left her room. Once outside, my brother and I sat down on a sofa in the lobby. "How are you and Daniel doing?" he asked. I smiled and nodded. "We're doing great, enjoying our time together." Kevin chuckled and patted my head. He's always been protective, even after I got married. "We were all worried when you quit the hospital, but meeting Daniel was the best thing that could have happened," he said. "I think Daniel's really helped me recover," I replied. As we continued talking, a nurse came over and my brother excused himself. "I'll be back in a minute," he said. I watched him head off to check on a patient. Being next in line to take over for our dad, the hospital director, he's pretty busy. The fact that we even had time to chat felt like a rare treat. I should have been helping my father and brother at the hospital, but instead, I started to feel down, a sense of sadness creeping in. "What's Jobless Sarah doing here?" A loud, familiar voice snapped me out of my thoughts. I looked up to see my sister-in-law, Lisa, smirking down at me as I sat on the sofa. The way she emphasized jobless bothered me, but I kept smiling. "Hi, Lisa. I'm here to visit my mom. This is a hospital, though, so could you lower your voice a bit?" I asked, feeling annoyed. I inwardly groaned, not wanting to deal with her, but she ignored my request and kept talking loudly. "Wait, your mom's in the hospital? I'm here for my internship," she said. It wasn't surprising since she was a medical student nearby, but I really didn't want to see her. I glanced at her outfit, which didn't seem appropriate for the hospital: flashy makeup, loosely tied hair. I remembered that when I worked here as a doctor, I kept things simple and professional. I wondered if anyone had mentioned this to her. I noticed some medical students and doctors standing behind her, looking confused. Most of the doctors knew me as the hospital director's daughter, and to them, Lisa probably seemed like a rude medical student making a scene. Thinking her loud voice was disturbing everyone, I tried to move the conversation. "Lisa, could you lower your voice? It's bothering people," I suggested. But instead of listening, Lisa let out a dramatic sigh. "You, a good-for-nothing daughter, managed to snag a rich guy like my brother. I bet your mom's relieved. You're probably making him pay for your mom's hospital bills, huh? Like a trashy mother-daughter duo," she sneered, making sure everyone around heard her insult. The doctors, medical students, and even some patients passing by frowned at her cruel words. Being called good for nothing in public and hearing her insult my mother pushed me to my limit. One of the doctors nearby couldn't take it anymore and stepped in. "Hey, you need to stop," they said, trying to calm the situation, but Lisa just laughed. "She deserves to be told off like this," Lisa said carelessly. The doctor shook their head and said, "Your life is over," before walking away, leaving Lisa confused by the remark. Just then, my brother Kevin returned, having finished his rounds. He saw the strange tension between me and Lisa and looked confused. "Hey, Kevin," Lisa's attitude changed instantly when she saw him. I was shocked by how quickly she could act nice. She even changed the way she spoke and walked over to him, looking like a completely different person. Kevin, my younger brother, is not only talented and handsome but also quite popular as the successor to our father. Seeing his charm, I immediately realized that Lisa was likely interested in him. "Sarah, did something happen?" Kevin asked when he saw me. Lisa glared at me and then asked Kevin, "Are you close with this person?" She referred to the doctor from her internship by his first name, which struck me as odd. Kevin distanced himself from Lisa and replied, "Well, yeah." Not finding his response amusing, Lisa continued, "But you know this person is married, right?" "You didn't know that? You should be careful, Kevin. She's married." Her nasal, whiny tone was irritating. It seemed Lisa misunderstood me as a rival for Kevin's attention. Kevin's reaction was surprising. "Wait, so Sarah is the daughter of the hospital director?" he asked, clearly bewildered. I nodded. "Yes, I'm his daughter. I used to work here as a doctor, but I had to quit due to health issues. Now, I'm a full-time housewife, focusing on recovery and housework," I explained. Lisa's face went pale. It was clear she had hoped to get a job at this hospital, and her derogatory comments about me and my mother had likely ruined her chances. Moreover, her aspirations for a wealthy marriage seemed dashed. As I observed Kevin's reaction, I felt a mix of bitterness and sympathy. Kevin muttered, "Unbelievable." It was evident that Lisa had never been on his radar. Although Kevin acknowledged her talent as a medical student, he continued, "There's a problem if someone easily calls others trash or makes fun of them before even becoming a doctor. Unless you understand what's wrong with that attitude, you're not fit to be a doctor." The people around us nodded in agreement, and Lisa, who had once looked down on me, was now being lectured by someone she underestimated. Even Kevin's disappointment was clear. It was a tough and humiliating moment for Lisa. I didn't want my sister-in-law to continue as a doctor with her current attitude. I believe doctors should not only be responsible for life but also understand and care about people's feelings. My sister-in-law clearly didn't understand this. Overwhelmed by the situation, she abruptly turned and ran away. A nurse scolded her for running in the hospital, and in her haste, she tripped and fell. Kevin and I couldn't help but share a laugh at the sight. 6 months later, my sister-in-law's poor attitude led to her complete isolation. After mocking me at the hospital, she developed a drinking problem that resulted in a serious injury and hospitalization. Ironically, she found herself needing a doctor's help and began to understand her own arrogance. She admitted, "I'm so ashamed. I want to apologize to Sarah." Her parents mentioned that she spends her days regretting her actions and reflecting on her behavior. She decided to take a break from medical school and plans to work on changing her ways once she's discharged, though it will be a tough road ahead. Meanwhile, I started a new job as a medical doctor at a pharmaceutical company. My work involves researching and developing drugs and ensuring the safety of new medications. Although my father and brother asked if I would return to the hospital, I prefer starting fresh at this new place. My mother's health has improved enough for her to receive care at home, and she's excited to attend my wedding next year.